In the beginning, there was nothing. Well, except for Call of Duty. But it wasn't like how it is nowadays. From 2003 to 2006, the series was focused on a World War II setting and various other escapades set in that time. But none of them really made a dent in the gaming culture at the time until their smash hit Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. Later entries would remove the numerical numbering of the franchise to instead focus on specific IPs. It's tough to imagine a world without the annual releases of Call of Duty. It's just become par for the course at this point. The series is known for its fair share of controversies like the nuke, shock and awe, and assassination sections.
Are you sure about that?
But I digress. My point is, Modern Warfare was a very stark contrast to what the game developers had been doing before up until that point. Enter Modern Warfare 2019, not to be confused with Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. Yeah, I know, I think they should have named it something else, but whatever. But it would only make sense that their next attempt to reinvigorate the COD franchise would only start here, with the series that put them on the map in the first place. But this time, as a pseudo-prequel to the events of the first one, while also having its own story. That being said, this game had some pretty big shoes to fill. And in this review, I will go over the campaign and point out its greatest moments as well as its flaws. Sorry, multiplayer and Spec Ops fans, I'm just not into that. I'm the type of dude that gets COD for the story. Also, the game is like 150 gigabytes, and I don't want to have to give up a quarter of my hard drive just to play a sweat fest. Now, with the formalities out of the way, let's game. So the game starts off with the leader of Al-Qatad, known as the Wolf, and his second man in charge, the Butcher, giving a State of the Union address to all of their fellow troops. Basically, they're your stereotypical terrorist group set out to do stereotypical terrorist things, at least in modern day standards. Also, that is weed in there. I don't care what anybody else says. Not gonna lie, that's a pretty intense opening. I was actually very excited to see where the game went from here. Well, it jumps back 24 hours and shows a new character to the franchise named Alex. He's sent on a secret mission to intercept a shipment of Russian chlorine gas from a General Barkov before they're shipped over and become untraceable. Things get heated when they find out some of the guys they've been killing are actually Spetsnaz soldiers, which at the beginning of the mission was a big no-no, but they must secure the gas at all costs, so they push on through. Just as Alex is about to secure the gas, Al-Qatad comes in, like Kramer, and yoinks it from them. They're also scared shitless that they just killed a bunch of Americans because now they'll have an international incident on their hands. Because obviously, as long as you don't kill any Americans, you're fine. So we're also introduced to these two characters. One is General Lyons, which she doesn't really do that much in the story. But there's also Laswell, who we don't necessarily get to know what rank she is, but she's definitely higher than a captain and also probably higher than a colonel, but not higher than a general. So, I don't know. So she's told by General Lyons that the chemical weapons are now in the wild, and since this has a lot of dead Russians around, as well as Americans, this could spark an international incident. So Laswell calls up Captain Price to help with the operation. You know how it normally is with these things. There's like some unspoken backstory between the two characters. Both of them are boss type characters, and they're like, oh, you helped me out that one time back in Nam. Oh, yeah, of course. But, don't double cross me, I'll fuck your day up, something like that. You know how it is. So we're introduced to a new character, but he's not necessarily a new character, but I'll explain that later, named Kyle, who seems to be part of London's security team or police or something, like a step above police, because I know the police officers don't, like, carry guns, they just carry nightsticks or whatever. So, I mean, he's definitely more, advanced than, a general police officer. Anyways, they get informed that there's possibly multiple bombers in the area, and Kyle requests snipers, but HQ doesn't want to alarm the public, to Kyle's dismay. They then spot a van with weapons inside and go to engage, but they detonate the charges when they're stopped. This mission is really freaking hectic. The enemies are dressed exactly like the civilians, so you can't tell who you're really shooting at until they point a weapon at you. You push through the carnage, and Captain Price meets up with Kyle, and they try to disarm a bomb that's strapped to the civilian dude, but they don't have enough time, so Price just throws him over the railing. Brutal. Price and Kyle have a heart-to-heart after the shootout, with Kyle being frustrated, saying that due to the current politics, the rules of engagement have stopped them from getting any real work done in the counterterrorism side of things. Kyle mentions they have been tracking the Al-Qaeda cell for weeks, and Captain Price lets him on the team so they can both hunt them down. Alex has been sent to track down the chemical weapons that seem to have made their way into Urgistan. The Liberation Front is helmed by Farah and her brother Hydir. Alex seems to have struck a deal with them on the terms that Alex and forces in the US Army will help them push out the Russians, and in exchange, they'll help them track down the chemical weapons that have made their way into their country. In this mission, they get intel that Russian troop commanders are in the city, so they set up ambushes as to draw their troops away from the base so they can be attacked later. While the mission is pretty intense, it's also quite short. They blow up a few helicopters, get some of their people killed, but it was worth it since in the next mission they assault the Russian base. The assault on the base is pretty cool. They use a combination of troops and drones with explosives tied to them to take out most of the resistance that's on the base. There's even a cameo from an Apache attack helicopter that reminds me of the first game when they used
Enemy AC on 30 above!
Got a guy aiming an RPG at us. Fuck him up.
With the forward operating base taken out, the Russians' air support is limited, so they'll have to act fast in order to push them out of the country. But meanwhile, thanks to the help of Kyle, Captain Price is able to trace the terrorist cell to a townhouse in London. This is, in my opinion, the most intense section in the whole game. The enemies try increasingly clever tactics to repel you. One guy hides under the bed. If you don't hear them call out their tactics, you will get a face full of lead. One guy even hides in the bathroom with a shotgun.
I shot him by the shower if you want to shoot me while I'm shitting.
I was on edge every time we slowly cleared the steps, especially when I was hearing a baby crying from one of the oncoming floors. I had a mixed range of emotions going through this section, so it was pretty tough. Also, if you fail the mission 3 times by accidentally shooting this woman who has the baby in the game, it will actually boot you to the main menu screen, which is an appropriate response. Also, a little interesting piece of information. Some of my friends who are a bit more familiar with UK terminology said that they're quite accurate in this section, since when you're going to the 2nd floor, they actually say 1st floor.
Bravo 6, moving to the 1st floor.
I guess it's just one of those differences between American speak and English speak. I don't know, I just thought that was really interesting and a very good piece of attention to detail. Anyways, so the townhouse had a lot of valuable intel on it, like the current location of the wolf, who's the leader of Al-Qaeda, as I mentioned before, and is holed up in a hospital in Urgistan, which is pretty good for them since they're using the civilians as shields. The assault on the hospital is pretty fun. You have to pop some smoke to advance past certain MG nests. The enemies even disguise themselves as patients sometimes. Alex locates, then captures the wolf and moves him to the US Embassy. I actually kind of like this section because it reminded me a little bit of my favorite game, SWAT 3, or even another game which I have not played but really want to, Rainbow Six Siege. Alcatraz shows up at the embassy led by the Butcher, who, as I mentioned before, is second in command. Alex, Hadir, and Farah interrogate the wolf, and he says his group was not the ones who stole the gas, which comes into play later. But for now, they have no choice but to extract him to another location. Captain Price and Kyle move in to extract the wolf by helicopter, but it's shot down, so they have to proceed into the embassy on foot. The Butcher tries to get in by holding a little boy hostage and follows through with his threat when he is denied entry. You can, if you want, open the doors here, but the mission is failed for obvious reasons. Captain Price mentions he knows the wolf from when he used to be a freedom fighter, and the wolf says he still is. I wonder if this could be in reference to anything.
Nasty.
Anyways, the ambassador is trapped, but he has a key card which can open the garage and might be their only way out. He goes all of about 2 seconds and biffs it.
You're a dummy, bitch!
But his assistant is still alive. You have to do a small minigame section here that I swear is straight out of Watch Dogs, where you have to tell his assistant Stacy when it's safe to move up from cover. After they get the key card, the plan is to link up with the Marines at the southern compound. Defending the compound is really awesome. The enemy starts probing your defenses from a distance. They start shooting out all the lights in the area, so you have to load up illumination rounds into a mortar just to see them. Then they start using mortars, and you have to run to the house across the street and clear them out. You feel like the enemy is actually giving it their all, and you're just playing catch-up. I probably died the most in this part of the game. After everything, Captain Price realizes the wolf is not worth all of their lives. But before he can even give up the wolf is captured back into Al-Qattad's forces. But they all get to fight another day. Even though Al-Qattad now has the wolf, they have no intention of letting them leave the city with him. So they have Bravo team with Captain Price and Kyle clear house to house, and if he leaves, there's only one highway in or out of the city. So Alex, Hadir, and Farah set up an ambush on the highway to stop them from escaping. This is a pretty good section. You get a bitchin' sniper rifle, and you actually get some help from Farah in zeroing it in to your targets. There's even a sniper battle like in World at War. The Russians somehow get there before the wolf, and everyone is completely surrounded. All hope seems lost until Hadir shows he actually had some Russian gas and uses it on the Russian army. Since no one knew that he actually had the gas, Alex and Farah almost die before Hadir pulls them to safety and puts gas masks on them. But before Farah passes out, she literally almost kills Hadir because her one rule was that she would never fight with the gas. Farah passes out, and Hadir tells Alex he was the one at the Russian base who stole the gas, but he only did it to help their cause. This mission takes place 20 years in the past, when Farah was just a young child in a war zone. She wakes up with her mother already dead, and is eventually rescued by some men in the village. I like the perspective change on this one. You literally are about knee height to everybody. It makes you feel extremely helpless, especially after your dad biffs it to this Dolph Lundgren impersonator, and you have to play an awesome game of cat and mouse with him. I will also give the writing a bit of credit here, since the dad tells them before he dies to survive, whatever it takes, which explains Hadir's later actions. So Farah and Hadir have to escape onto this truck, So Farah gets a double kill on these Russians, but they still get captured anyways. So it jumps back to modern day, and in the debriefing room, Laszlo says Hadir went north and was either captured or let into the Al-Qatir forces, but either way, he's an enemy to both the US and the Russians. Farah wants the chance to kill her brother himself, so Captain Price pushes to have Laszlo put her on the team, and Laszlo accepts. Okay, so what I said here wasn't actually true because Laszlo kinda lies here, since in the briefing, which takes place a few seconds after the debriefing, she says Hadir made contact with Al-Qattad and you can clearly see him shaking hands with the wolf. I'm not sure why they lied to Farah just now and said they didn't know if he went with Al-Qattala voluntarily or by force, because it's very clear that he went there voluntarily. Doesn't really make any sense why they would phrase it like this, especially when it's mere seconds after they told her the exact opposite. I don't know. It's just really weird. I'm willing to overlook it, but it's like, come on. So thanks to Hadir, their satellites have tracked him right to the wolf's new location. Bravo 6 is sent in while Farah and Alex will wait till secondary clearance and they'll join up with them to take out the wolf. And also, I'm pretty confident that this is based off of the Osama bin Laden raid. So they find out the wolf is actually in the tunnels, but due to an explosion, Farah and Alex are trapped down there and cut off from the rest of the group. As you clear the tunnels, Hadir makes a slight cameo, but then escapes. This action scene's alright. Everything catches on fire as you're trying to make a vertical escape, and you get to grease the wolf and do a quick mini game while you disarm the bomb on the wolf's dead body. Okay, so the dialogue in the debriefing room here is even stranger than the last part. I mean, in this part, it's literally like they're reading each other's minds or something. Just watch.
As much as we can all hear the ice in the glass, I'm afraid our toast has to wait. Hadir and his new friends are on the move.
What are they?
One step at a time.
No one said they're friends.
The general would tend to disagree.
Norris, I asked you to let me
Tell
handle-
him, Laswell. Or I will.
Command has officially redesignated Farah's forces.
You want to translate that from bullshit to English?
It means they're on the list.
What list?
Foreign terror organization list.
It feels like there was an extra piece of dialogue here. Like, it doesn't make sense Alex would know they don't trust her.
What are they?
One step at a time.
No one said they're friends.
It just doesn't seem like there is any indication that that was the case. I don't know, it's just weird to me. Anyways, Alex goes rogue, and he says he's going to leave the US Army and join Farah's freedom fighters. I just feel like that is wrong on so many levels. And that this is a stain on an otherwise good game. Because I'm pretty sure you can't just up and leave the US Army to join another faction. But I'll touch on that later in my criticism section.
Will you keep your Muppets on a short string, Colonel?
Or what?
I'll fucking hang you from it.
Also, I know Price is kind of a fuckboy, but I'm pretty sure a captain can't threaten a colonel like that. At least not officially, but I don't know, I could be wrong. It does a flashback to 10 years ago. Farah and Hadir are being held captive in a Russian prison. We're not exactly clued in to what her or Hadir has been doing since the last flashback. Like, has she been in prison for 10 years and has created an underground group of female freedom fighters? Or did she escape when she was younger, did her freedom fighter shit, and then got captured again? Regardless, General Barkov oversees Farah's interrogation, but mostly torture. So, from what I can piece together from this section, it seems like Farah was somehow able to send out a message from the base under the name of Commander Kareem, and Barkov wants to know who Kareem is. Also, I wasn't expecting there to be a waterboarding minigame where you have to avoid the water and breathe when the water is not pouring on you. But there it is. I don't know how I feel about this. I'm just going to leave it at that. I can't really say if this is a scummy thing to do or a strange thing to do, or I don't know. I really don't have any comment on this. I'll just leave it at that. All I'm saying is that it just was a little bit strange, especially with the dialogue that happens here.
Nice. You're pretty good at this. Damn, you're good.
I will say that Barkov holds one of her freedom fighters or fellow prisoners hostage unless she tells him who Kareem is. I was actually surprised to see a dialogue wheel in a COD game. But yeah, if you tell him that Kareem is actually Farah, then he actually spares this girl's life, and she's later seen helping you out. But if not, she'll cap her. Anyways, she finds a way to escape and arm her freedom fighters. They make a wrong wep turn in Albuquerque, but just before they're all about to biff it, a baby-faced Captain Price shows up and helps free Hadir, and the day is saved. So in the next cutscene, Laswell and Price come to the realization that even though the Russians were wrong with what they were doing in Kyrgyzstan, Al-Qatala, with the help of Hadir, will most likely seek revenge on the Russian civilians. So since Hadir was an American asset, this would look really bad on America for obvious reasons. Laswell gives Price the green light to do an unsanctioned trip into Russia to figure out what's going on. We finally get a good look at Nikolai, and he seems like more of a gangster than his previous iteration. Price tells Nikolai to bring the package. This will make sense later.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that?
A fucking alien.
Anyways, the mission is pretty fast-paced since you're always running to catch up to the butcher. It was the only time in the whole game where I felt like I was actually breathless. Like I was not going fast enough no matter how hard I tried. Nikolai love taps the butcher with his car, and they take him to the safe house to interrogate. It is revealed that the package is actually the butcher's wife and son. And surprisingly enough, you actually do get an option to be a part of the interrogation/torture, or let Captain Price handle it.
This is amazing and ethically ambiguous.
Which I may add is a very good alternative to outright censoring, since if you're not okay with that sort of thing, you can literally choose to opt out. So you have to threaten the butcher with shooting his family so he gives up the location of the chemical weapons. I'm not gonna lie, this scene was actually kind of hard for me to play through. But you get the information before there's any long-lasting effects on anybody, well, besides therapy. And Captain Price, Nikolai, and Kyle dips out. At the end of the mission, Kyle is questioning everything. He's wondering who exactly will they turn into if they use such horrible means to achieve their goals. And Price gives one of his iconic speeches.
We're cleaning up a mess.
With women and children.
They were leveraged.
They were
When
hostages.
you take the gloves off, you get blood on your hands, Kyle.
Where do we draw the line, sir?
You draw the line wherever you need it, Sergeant. End of the day, someone has to make the enemy scared of the dark. We get dirty, and the world stays clean. That's the mission.
I don't really agree, but damn is he badass when he says it. So the objective of this mission is to capture Hadir, since Price believes he's going to try to assassinate Barkov. This mission, in my opinion, is one of, if not the best, in the entire game. There's a little bit of an on-rails section where Price is guiding you through how the light and dark system works. You know, like if you're in the light, people can see you, and if you're not in the light, people can't see you. And there's a little indication on the left side of your helmet that will tell you if you're in the light or in the dark. But then right after this, you're given 3 areas to search, and you can complete them in any order. I love this part, because the game actually stops holding your damn hand every 5 minutes and lets you do things your way. It respects you as a player and challenges you. Is one of the only times in the game where it actually does challenge your skill level by just letting you do things your way instead of being told what to do. I did hear that Cold War did fix this issue in a lot of ways, but I hope in the next game, Modern Warfare 2, they will have more of this. So Kyle is sent to the 3 locations where there is enemy activity. All of them have hostages that have had the ever-loving shit beaten out of them. The last hostage will always give you the location and the code. However, it is revealed that they are members of Barkov's family that they are torturing for the location of Barkov, which Price meets you at to capture Hadir. Fortunately, Hadir, while he did come to kill Barkov and his family, he gives Price the information on Barkov's chemical weapons factory. Unfortunately, Barkov's men catch them, and since Hadir killed and tortured members of Barkov's family, he isn't taking any chances of letting them escape and sends everything he has at them. So they have to make a quick getaway. I do kind of like the nod to the original series.
You done in, Sergeant? On your feet, we are leaving!
Anyways, this time Laszlo pops in like fucking Kramer and yoinks Hadir from them, since they probably want some leverage in their corner when negotiations with Russia start, if I had to take a guess. But Price is allowed to keep the chemical weapons lab intel. Price goes back to Kyrgyzstan and convinces Farah and Alex to wage one last proxy war battle on General Barkov's gas factory. Which is funny because Farah knows that her and her army are being used since they could just blame it all on Al-Qatala or Farah's army, but she wants to kill Barkov that badly. The plan for the mission is simple. Kyle and Price will set explosives on a pipeline and Farah and Alex will rig up the furnace, and then everything goes boom. If only it was that simple. I really like the small bit of characterization Nikolai gets here. He hates Barkov for being a stain on his country, even though he's kind of a fixer, so he's not really besties with the law. There's also a cool fight with a Juggernaut, which was a pretty intense section. It kind of breaks the game, since if you use the steam, he kind of just wanders around while your teammates are like right next to him, shooting him in the head as he just kind of walks by them. I just found it kind of funny. Anyways, the detonator is damaged, so Alex volunteers to sacrifice himself so Farah can finally get her revenge on Barkov. I do like how Alex completed his arc here. At the beginning of the story, he was talking to Farah, and she was surprised that he didn't get to choose his battles or where he fights in. But this time, Alex is ready to die for a cause he believes in. Maybe it is a little bit rushed, but I like it all in the same. And I also can't believe I'm saying this, but I actually do wish that there was some sexual tension here between Farah and Alex, just to make this sacrifice have a bit more of an impact. I think it would have been a really interesting thing to show that Alex is ready to die for a cause and a person that he loves. But I can see how it would be a little bit weird since she is like, the commander, so she has like a higher rank than him. Whatever. But other than that, it was a pretty impactful scene. Kyle and Price plant the charges on the pipeline while Farah sneaks into General Barkov's private helicopter somehow and stabs the hell out of him. He actually has quite a bit of bad guy dialogue here, according to the subtitles, but I couldn't hear most of them because she started stabbing too early. I mean, there is still dialogue here after you're done stabbing him, but it's just not as much as what was on the subtitles. Anyways, Farah kicks Barkov off of the helicopter. Price, Kyle, and Alex detonate the charges, and the day is saved. I also kind of like it that Nikolai was the pilot of the helicopter. Like, just in case Farah couldn't make it, Nikolai had her back. I don't know, I just find it kind of cool. So the ending cutscene isn't too flashy or anything for once. Just Laswell and Price in a coffee shop of some sorts, probably in Kyrgyzstan. So they mentioned that Russia disowned Barkov, which makes sense. He died at the foot of a chemical gas factory that was illegal, so they kind of have to save face whether they supported him or not. While the day is saved, there is still a problem. Imrad and Viktor Zakhaev want to take Barkov's place and free Hadir from Russian custody. Both of these characters are from the original game as well, and they apparently are one of the main antagonists of the co-op section of the game, but yet again, I have no friends, but whatever. So they name drop Commander Shepard, confirm that Kyle is going to be named Gaz. Remember I said earlier, about Kyle? Yeah, he's Gaz now. And that Soap is going to be in the next game as well. Also, they name drop Simon Riley, who is probably going to be Ghost. There's an after credits scene where they show Khalad al-Assad doing what he does best and shooting people in the face with a Desert Eagle. Let's go over some parts of the game I thought were good and bad during my playthrough before I give my final thoughts. The good. When the mission starts, it snaps the camera into your character and puts you right in the action. I can't understate how much I love when they do that. The ability to mount your gun on a wall and use it as cover while you clear a room is absolutely amazing. Like, I can't believe they haven't done this before. I think Rainbow Siege actually does have a better version of this, but I don't know, I do kind of like it here in COD. Another thing I liked is there's a lot of little subtle nuances in combat that make it feel so dynamic. Like when you shoot a light and your teammate calls it out, or how Captain Price will call out when you use a flashbang, or how you have to shoot pieces of a door off in order to get a line of sight to the enemy. I just love how unique the combat is in this game. I also really like how the tone is serious at times and can get pretty dark. The baby crying during the clear house section was very intense. So we talked about some good, let's talk about some bad. So, major thing, major bad thing. The cutscenes drop massive frames. This is unacceptable. The cutscenes also have audio delays. This is unacceptable. Like, seriously, this game is almost 150 gigabytes. It should not be having cutscene or audio delays like this. Like, I really don't understand how the cutscene can't load properly, but whatever. I only encountered it a handful of times. But when it happens your first time, when you're watching a cutscene through your first time, it's unacceptable. I don't want to have to keep looking at the character's eyes because their lips aren't syncing up with what they're saying. I hate that. Another thing that really irked me that I mentioned a lot is we never get to find out who Laszlo really is, or more importantly for me at least, what rank she is. Like, she's obviously higher than a colonel, but lower than a general. I don't know, whatever. Maybe it's just me. Another thing, the gas doesn't really seem like that much of a threat. I mean, Alex and Farah were exposed to it, and it only took putting on a gas mask to save them after about a minute of exposure. I mean, yeah, they pass out, but it seems like Nova 6 gas, or even mustard gas, is way worse than this stuff. So, a major thing I could not get over, maybe it's just me, but Alex going rogue. He says he's going to leave the U.S. Army to join a terrorist group, or at least a terrorist group by the definition of the U.S. government. I know they aren't actually terrorists, but like I said, in the eyes of the U.S., they are. This is not okay. I'm sure Laszlo would have said this is not an option. You cannot go AWOL. You're arrested. Seriously, why would he be able to do this? Although, even on the off chance he was able to get out of the base, there's no way in hell he was going to be able to go back to America, but that's okay because he sacrificed himself. So that aspect, I can say, is accurate. Okay, so is it just me, or does Captain Price look kind of weird? Like, do they, like, come on, like, he looks like he got little baby eyes, right? Like, I'm sure people have eyes like this in real life, but I don't know. It just looks kind of strange. I don't know. Whatever. Do you guys notice that? Let me know. All in all, the campaign is really fun to play through, and they set it up nicely for the next game in the series. I do kind of like how they're starting on familiar ground, but the story is slightly different from the original, and I'm interested to see what changes and what will stay the same. So far, it doesn't seem like they've caught up to the events of the original game. So it's not only a reboot, but also like a prequel, so a pre-boot or something like that. Regardless, the campaign is good. Yeah, it's got some strange dialogue, and I wish that they would have fleshed out some of the other characters, like Laswell. Since we see her quite often, we really don't know who she is or what she does. Price, I want to learn more about you, dude. How'd you become so ruthless and willing to do pretty crazy things in order to keep the world safe? That being said, it's an easy 7 out of 10. Above average. You could probably go higher if you wanted to, and I would be totally fine with that too. This game series had a lot to live up to and a lot to live over. Trust me, you know some of the games. Hopefully they can fill the shoes of its older brother. You can be absolutely sure I will be doing a review of the campaign of Modern Warfare 2 since it releases a week before the multiplayer. I will also be doing a multiplayer beta review. If you like the video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you like what I do and want to see more, and comment below if you think I'm insane or if Captain Price's eyes are fine just the way they are. Like, for real, he looks like he's got like teensy tiny little baby eyes to me. Like, I don't know, whatever. Anyways, peace.